whole life and really just love what I do. It's a great experience. I get to work with, great groups like y'all, and Cliff and I work together a lot. He's been the chairman of our BMAC for many years and really does a great job with that group. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I'm going to talk a little bit about a lot of stuff, but I'm going to focus a lot on Hall Pier. I know that's the main interest of why everybody's here, but I kind of want to show you a little bit about what's going on because I'm really fortunate in the precinct that I represent. I get all the good stuff. I really tell the other commissioners and the judge, I'm really the fortunate one. I've got the best precinct, and that's not to say there aren't other great areas in Nueces County, because there are. They say I was born and raised here. I love it. But I get all the beach. It's great. I have Port Aransas, I have Padre Island, I have Flower Bluff, I have London, I have part of the south side all the way up to Ocean Drive. So I've really got the most exciting part of our county, and it really centers around our beaches and the areas there. So I'm gonna do this, and I appreciate you doing this. I want to tell you a little bit about how it works. The Coastal Parks Board, a lot of you may or may not know, that is a statutory board that is set up in Nueces County, and they run the coastal assets, okay? And Jim Needham, who was a great chairman of that board for many years and was on that board for many years, knows how important that board is. And I know how important that board is. And this is our current board made up of Troy Adler, Bob Paulson, Kim Son, Winston Beecher Khan, Randall Moore, Mr. Sabota, M.K. Walling. Very good board, diverse boards, very coastal oriented. And what they do is they work hand in glove with me to come up with a plan for that coastal parks area. Now, they set the policy, they do a lot of it, and my role is to go find the funding, okay? That's the bottom line. It is not an advisory board. It is a statutory board that has the authority to do things, and I try to let them do their thing and really support what they do and go find the funding for it, right? Hall Pier is in that. Now, so I wanted to make sure you knew that it's set up by this, by law. We do it. It's very serious about it. We go to the next slide, sorry.
Can I ask how they chosen?
Sorry?
How are they chosen?
Good question. Thank you for asking that, James. The Nueces County, the way it is set up is the law says that the county judge picks the board and the commissioner's court approves it, right? So basically what happens is the county judge and I come up with the nominees but it's her nominee and she always comes to me. She's been a great county judge to work with. She comes to each commissioner, not just me, and she really works hard to make sure that everybody has their say. And so we try to balance it. And we've got a couple of people on there from Port A, a couple from the island, a couple from in town. And so if you apply and a lot of times we don't have tons and tons of applications, and a lot of people stay on there for a long time, which is kind of cool. Jim was on there forever until, well, we won't say until I told Jimmy I'm ready. I told him I'd put him back on whenever he wanted to come back on, but he hadn't told me when to come back on yet. But he did a great job for us. This is just a part of my presentation. We can kind of skip through this, but it's important for me to know when I'm doing these presentations all over the coastal bend. We talk about tax rate. Why is that important? Because obviously we want this to be a place that people can live in. This is the tax rate when I took office in 2014. This is what it was in 24, 25. As you can see, it's gone down, and that's important to everybody, right? We want people to have that. So we keep going on that. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on a lot of this. Again, this is a bigger part of the presentation. Okay, there we go. All right, and we can skip this one too, but this is a big drainage project that we've got going on out in the London area. It's something that I think that's important for everything we've been doing. But again, I'm going to skip through some of this stuff that's not going to be as interesting to you. Carpet Pool, Flower Bluff. I know some of you from that area, but I'm going to try to get down to my island stuff here, but I did want to show you some of the things going on. This is kind of a cool project for those of you who are in the Port Aransas area. That's a Veterans Memorial. We had a group from Port Aransas that approached me and said, hey, we want to use some of the county property that you have. Would you be interested in doing that? And I said, absolutely. Not only would I be interested in it, but I'm going to find you some funding. So I have allocated $150,000 of the $250,000 for that project. That's going to be a neat memorial out on in the county property out there. The plan is to have this humongous big flagpole with the American flag flying so that when the ships are coming in, they can see it too. And it's going to be a really neat memorial for our veterans, but it's going to be, again, very environmentally conscious and very appropriate for the area. So we're very excited about where that's going. Charlie Zahn, who also was on our Coastal Parks Board for many, many years, Chairman Maris, he's kind of heading that up out in that area. And they're going to try to raise some of the rest of it. If they don't, I'm sure I'll probably help find some more too. So we'll just keep going on that. IBMG Beach Park. All right, so we're getting to some of the island things that are important, right? This project, if you remember, there's this little thing called Hurricane Harvey that came along, right? Kind of knocked the crap out of all of us, and it was really devastating to Port Aransas especially. Going through two hurricanes as a county commissioner has been devastating to say the least. Watching the people that went through what they went through in Port Aransas was horrible. And then dealing with the Bob Hall Pier incident since Hurricane Hannah came along has not been a lot of fun. That's the downside. Not a lot of downsides representing the coast, but those are definitely downsides when you have to deal with hurricanes. This is a cool project, though. If you haven't been out there, please go out there. It's your building. This is a county building. Coastal Parks Board runs it. They have their offices there. That's the office that they run the IB Magee Beach Park RV park that we have out there that I was able to find about $4 million to do some renovations on that. This particular, that's another $4 million. This particular project was about $4 million. And I got to tell you, the mess on this one was we got caught in supply chain, we got caught in COVID, and we got caught with an insurance company that didn't want to pay us what we were owed. Unfortunately, when Harvey hit, the insurance company wanted to pay us $1 million. We ended up settling with them when we had to go hire a lawyer, unfortunately, and pay them a lot of money, but we settled later, many years later, for $20 million. So we were able to use those funds to come back and do this renovation. It's got brand new bathrooms, showers, laundry room, conference room. It's got a beautiful view on the top for offices and viewing. Yes, sir.
Last line says registered guests. Does that mean that they're the only ones that can use?
No, you can go and showers. It's just yeah, we can change that. No, you can use it too. If you call out there and if you want to go out and we've told people in Port A, especially if they want to have a meeting, there's a nice conference room. I've had some meetings out there. There have been some meetings out there. I need to change that line. I appreciate that. It's what it's primarily for. What it should say is it's primarily for registered guests because that's where they go check in and they take there's a big shower facility. So they can go in there and shower, but you can use it if you'd like to use it. If you have any problems, you let me know and I'll make sure, but they know to let people use it for sure.
Hey, Brent,
Yes.
just,
I'm sorry.
point of interest there, I.B. Magee is Pat Magee's father, and Pat Magee was a longtime Texas surfer, and had a surf shop over in Port Aransas for eons, and it's kind of one of the local legends.
And when we reopened this, their family came, some of the Magee family came in for this too. And they really appreciated the fact that we were able to rebuild this, some investment, but it's a really cool facility out on the beach and people use it, quite a bit.
It really is a cool facility, guys. I've been in it already. Has a nice viewing area up on the top too.
Yeah.
So well worth visiting.
Yeah, absolutely. They'll let you, and they will let you use it again if they don't.
Do they have,
Most of you let anybody use it wants to.
do they have a time period of when you can go in and use these facilities, or is it one?
Open. I mean, now I think there's some ability for people to get in with a code if they have to go and take showers and stuff, but it's mainly, there's office hours, kind of the daily office hours that we don't have people working overnight or anything like that. I'll tell you what, if this doesn't work, I'm in trouble because I don't have. All right. We sent you're just making me sweat, aren't you? Next one, please, sir. Okay, this is some really cool stuff. For those of you who know Scott Cross, who is our Coastal Parks Director, he's been there for many, many years. He is a master at getting grants, and he really does a great job at doing that. If I could just make Scott not do anything else, go get us grants, I would, but unfortunately can't because he does some of the other things as well out there. But this is a project that the GLO gave us for $3.6 million for Packery Channel living shoreline and public access. It consists of a living shoreline to mitigate erosion occurring along the park shoreline, a public fishing pier. The federal permitting will take up to a year and then construction will begin, but we do have that money from the GLO, and that's a lot in great part to Scott's efforts in getting that done. Keep moving, please. Packery Channel Nature Park and Habitat and Boardwalk stand.
I'm sorry to be the disruptor.
Let's go fast.
Fishing pier, what does that mean?
Stargate.
Fishing pier.
It's not Bob Hall. I can assure you that. It'll not be it's not going to be, but it's going to be like you can go back to it. It's really, oh, here we go. There you go. It's just going to be this is kind of, not exactly, but kind of what we're talking about. So it's not a long, huge, big deal. It's just a place where people can get on there over on the jetties, those areas, and use that area to do it.
So maybe it's just modifications to the jetty?
No, it's on Packery Channel.
Yeah.
On Packery Channel to the
Back.
On the backside?
backside to the,
Never mind, no,
to the west.
Okay.
Yeah.
To the west.
Come on, man. I got Bob Hall here with 2 piles.
Yeah.
Packery Channel on the Gulf side, that's city.
Right.
Can I ask a question? What is that living shoreline going to consist of? What is that material for the living shoreline?
That's a really good question that we're gonna have to get Scott to answer. They're gonna show the public so you can see the design and so forth, and that's what the Coastal Park Board is. I mean, they're doing all of this. I mean, really, I'm just showing you some of these things that they're working on. I mean, do you remember, Jim, what they were doing on that at all?
I think originally they were talking about planting a bunch of, aquatic plants there that would hold all of the soil in place because if it's a hard surface, it causes, every time you put a hard surface in, it causes erosion somewhere else.
Right.
That's not living. I mean, that sounded weird.
No,
That's
he's
not a
he's
living.
saying that they're doing plantings.
No, I know,
Instead of
yeah,
hard
because the
surface.
hardscape would not be a living.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
They're not doing like, blocks and all that.
It's supposed to be more,
Oh,
environmental.
It's that little park has like kayak access and all of that, and people can wade fish. If they don't want to change that, they just want to preserve it because there's a lot of erosion there from the boats going in and out.
Go ahead. Okay. And then what this one will do, this is a little more specific. I need to get these slides a little more specific, and I'll do that. But this is adding additional 2,800 linear feet to the existing boardwalk, adding 1.5 acres of additional birding habitat, and adding 0.5 acres of wetland enhancements to migratory birds. Again, a $3.4 million grant from the GLO, and it's really, I'm really excited about this because we all know how the birding is in this area, and this is just really going to be a neat part of this Packery Channel Nature Park. So we're very excited about that. Again, about 1 year for design and construction, but again, the money has been provided. And so the point of me showing you some of the stuff that was supposed to be Bob Hall Pier, which will show you that the millions of dollars that we are spending out to enhance the island and enhance the areas that I think are super important to this area. And honestly, that I can have the most impact on a lot of times because the way the county is, we take responsibility for things that are outside the city limits for the most part, right? Now, that doesn't, we have a jail, we have a court system, but as far as in my precinct, where I have the most impact is really in Port Aransas and in the island, because we have a lot of county land and a lot of county property there. So this is kind of fun stuff to be able to do, and this is where a lot of my other commissioners get a little jealous that I get to do some of this kind of stuff, because it is a major impact that we're having out there, and it's really neat to be a part of it.
Rick, you might mention where this is, because I'm sure a lot of people don't know where it is. The park is already there. The county was going to sell this property, and so the Parks Board declared it a nature preserve. And
Not me, then I wasn't going to sell it, let's make sure.
no, this was before his time. And so we declared it a nature preserve, and then after we had done that, we decided to make improvements and through Scott's grants and so forth. There's boardwalks out there. There's master gardeners, and them have helped us with planting a lot of native plants and clearing out all of the
Brazilian pepper.
yeah, Brazilian pepper and other stuff. It's a real pretty area, and this area, the coast is a fallout area for migratory birds when they come across the Gulf. As soon as they see trees, they're dropping into those trees, so it preserved all those trees out there as well. So it's a great birding spot in the right times of year.
You still didn't say where it is on.
Well, I was having, let Brent tell you.
Right.
Well, I mean-
I was just telling you how it started.
Well, I'm turning this, if you go out, it's over.
By the Sea Life Center?
Yeah,
Yes.
same road as the Sea Life
Now,
Center.
it's over by that where Spawn, that old building is over, it's in that whole area back in there. And it's so nice. Anyway, all right. Again, I'm not trying to rush through this. I'm just trying to get you to Bob Hall Pier, which is what I'm really supposed to be here for. But please keep asking, James. I'm okay with whatever you want to ask. All right, keep one more. Yeah, there we go. Okay, again, now this was a grant that Jim was involved in back in the day. It was a federal restore grant. And I got to tell you, this one we waited it took us 7 or 8 years to get this money. So when Scott first came when we were applying for this particular grant, what he was able to do was use my local match money that I spent on Packery Valley and IBD. And because some of these, they want local match, right? They want a local participation. So a big reason we got this is Scott went out and did it, the Parks Board supported it, and I had already put in $6 or $7 million worth of improvements that had been planned and going forward as well. So because of that, we were able to get this grant, and literally, I think I got this right when I started. I mean, I don't remember when it took us 7 or 8 years to get the money in the bank. But what we're going to do is we're going to add additional RV sites and tent camping sites, additional restroom and laundry, facility, common shade areas, a walking trail, depending on the budget. And anticipated completion of this is December of 2026. So again, money in the bank on this one. This is something that we're working on, both Packery and IBMD. And those are very, very popular sites. Both of them are. We've got deed restrictions on Packery where we can't, people in RVs can't stay there longer than 14 days. But if we don't have those in IBMD, and, you know, we spent millions of dollars renovating those two areas. And they are, I'm not going to say they're full all the time because that would be an overstatement, but they're definitely revenue generators for the county. They're in the sense of we get revenue, but people love to come and be on the beach. I mean, they just love how close our properties are to the beach. And people are there. We can't do it enough in the summer. And tent sites are something that people really have asked us for, and we've gotten in and got some input because not everybody has an RV, right? We want people to come and be able to do it and be affordable for everybody. And so we're adding these tent camping sites as well. And if you know what that area back on Packery, if you go where the new area is and then you go back where the construction site is for Bob Hall, it's terrible back there. That's going to be a lot of the area that's going to get renovated because it's just, it's in horrible shape. So
This whole project right here came to the committee that I chair. And what we do is we review this to be sure that there's no sand dunes that are going to be damaged. And this cleared with no problem at all. There won't, even though it's an expansion, there won't be any sand dunes that can be damaged in this process.
and the BMAC is different than the Parks Board because they're an advisory board, but that's not to discount that. The point there is, in theory, the Commissioners Court doesn't have to listen to what the BMAC says, but we do. And I've been really hardcore in pushing and making sure that it has to go through BMAC and Cliff's group has to sign off on it. It's a very balanced group of really good people in this community. They're very conscious about what's going on and want this to be environmentally conscious, but it also, you know, to follow the law. And Cliff and his committee do a really good job of representing your interest. And then I make really sure that I think there might have been one thing in all the time I've been on the Commissioner's Court that Cliff and I didn't agree on, and we still got it worked out. So, I mean, that's pretty good, right? I mean, I think, because that isn't how things always happen. So, one more. Okay, there we go. There we go. Forest Caldwell Pier concession space. For those of you who like to go out to the Port Ranches part of our island, that's an $830,000 project. Most of those funds came from the sale of land in Port Ranches that I allocated to the project, along with some other precinct 4 funds. And this is on top of the $1.2 million spent to build an observation deck in Port Ranches. Planned construction is renovating of the existing Horse Caldwell concession space and is currently out for bid. Should be going pretty quickly. That space can't be a restaurant like the one on Packery on the island, on the north part of the island, but it can be a nice concession space for people to go get a beer and bake, and we want that to be more appealing, and we need to have the ability to have a good concessionaire out there that can make some money for themselves, and that's always a hard thing. You know, Jim went through that with so many concessionaires on these places. It's really hard to make a buck doing what they're doing out there, so we need to do everything we can to help them do that, because the concessionaire doesn't make a buck, then we don't have a concessionaire. Like, we're not in the business of going out and doing it ourselves. We have to have someone that can come in there and do that so that they have a place to have a beer or soda, some, you know, snack, maybe. We can't have a restaurant, but a snack. And then next to it, we built an observation tower. If you remember, that was all in lieu of the problems that we had with the Michael May space. And so this was another project that had been on the Parks Board list for many years, just wasn't funded. And so we were able to go and get funding for that. Wasn't easy, but we had some help from the Port Corpus Christi helped us, as well as myself and some others that came together to make that happen. So that's been a really cool project, and a couple $1 million just on that project alone that we spent out there as well.
Brett, are there prohibitions against food trucks on the county property?
No, there's not. We've had a lot of discussions about how we do that. We don't want to compete, let's say, with a vendor that we put in there, like a concessionaire. We hate to do that, so we've got to be careful with that.
Food trucks in lieu of a concessionaire?
Yeah, and we could, but at the same time, you're at the whim of when that truck shows up, whether if you have the concessionaire, somebody wants to usually go in and do it, but it's not out of the realm possibility. We've had, the park boards have those discussions, and they have like a chair, I don't know what it's I can't think of the name of that concessionaire that we have out there, that they do rental chairs and stuff like that. And so there have been those things out there as well, but there is no prohibition to put a food truck. Next one, please, sir. Briscoe King Pavilion, if you've been watching, I'm so pumped about that. There's really no, event space on the island. There just isn't. Since Schlitterbahn, the country club, since that went away, they can't find places to have, big events. This space, if you're familiar with Briscoe King Pavilion, it's there now. Okay. It's been there for many, many, many years. Many of you have probably used it. I have. I've been out there for different events. When we looked at this, and again, this has been on the Parks Board list for a long time, but they didn't have the funding. So what I did was came up with an idea to go to the tax increment reinvestment zone on the island and ask them for the funds. And what that is an entity that was originally formed 20 plus years ago to maintain Packery Channel. I was on the council when that happened. And we set that up because everybody was worried about justifiably so silting up and all those kind of things. And so we said, okay, we don't want that to happen. We're going to make sure that there's money to make sure it doesn't happen. It effectively did what it was supposed to do. And then we renewed it again for another 20 years. And then, but the cities involved, it was the city, the county, and Del Mar. Del Mar opted out this time. The city and the county stayed in. And the county had not gotten any projects out of that TERS because, one, it was mainly for Packery. And now all the projects that it's, I'm going to show you the list at the end on that, of all the projects they're working on, they're all city projects. So I went to the mayor and Greg Smith at the time and said, hey guys, listen, I need some help. This is a big time project. We need it. They were like, we love it. Let's go. And about, I don't know, a month and a half ago, we had the final vote on that. It was unanimous. It's all the city council members. The TERS is made up of all the city council members and 4 of us on the commissioner's court now. It was a unanimous vote. They were also kind enough at the last meeting to let me be the vice chair of that committee, which I'm the first county rep that's been able to do that. It's always been the District 4 rep who's the TERS chairman. It was Greg Smith. It was Dan Suckley. It's Kevin Paxton now. And then they were nice enough to let me be vice chair as well. This space is going to be awesome. The existing space will remain, but there was no way to go in and effectively fix it because it's an old building, low ceilings. It would have been horrible to try to put an air conditioning system in. So instead, we said, okay, let's build 6,000 square feet next door that will hold 300 people, offices, air conditioned, and we'll connect it and we will enhance the old space, but we will still have it there. So it will be a more affordable option. So, we don't rent that. If it's an unair conditioned space, you don't rent that for as much as you do a nice meeting plan space, right? The city will use it for some things that they have because it's city money as well as county money, but it will be a county project. We have that. It was actually 5.9. I need to change that too, but it was 5.92 million. It's sitting in the bank account. We're working with the architect now. That design done. We're hoping that that'll start construction in 2026 because it'll take 6 to 8 months of design because we literally just got it approved. I'm going to say 3 weeks ago, a month ago. I can't remember. But that's going to be a really neat thing on the island. It'll habitate very well with Hall Pier. Okay, next. I promise you I'll get to it. There we go. We'll be on the way. Okay, now I'm going to slow down.
Sorry, best for last.
Save the best. Kind of, yeah, absolutely. This, I got to tell you, this has been, let's describe this. This has been one of the most difficult and yet rewarding projects I've ever worked on in my life. Okay. If I never want to do it again. I never want to build a pier ever again. And God willing, I won't have to do that because this thing is going to last. That when this happened, I thought somebody was punking me. I tell the story all the time, and I really did. Somebody sends me a video and said, come on, leave me, y'all are kidding, right? I mean, how does a Cat 2, which is like a windy day in Corpus Christi, right? I mean, how does a Cat 2 knock down the end of Hall Pier? It doesn't make sense. Well, there's this thing called storm surge that I've heard a lot about since that happened. And that storm surge got up higher than it had gotten. It came right down on top of it and knocked it down. So we went to work, right? It took a year before I could even figure out how to find any funds. FEMA said, no, you don't qualify. We fought with them. We said, look, we got to quit fighting. We just got to go figure out how to get this rebuilt because people get antsy. I get that. But when we started, we had $0. Okay. County budget all in is about 200 million. The city of Corpus Christi is about 1.8 billion. All right. So a $200 million county all in budget and about 120, that's general fund. The rest of it is road and bridge and some specialized funds, right? So really about 25 million is all the general fund budget I've got to work with in Nueces County. So to come up with $28 million took a lot of creativity, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, a lot of haters and a lot of conspiracy theories thinking that we didn't want to build this pier. But lo and behold, here we are today in a spot that I'm very excited about. I always give credit where credit is due. We're not for the Surf Rock Foundation, who came to us afterwards and said, hey, I think you better look at the design of this pier. This one pile pier is not going to be what you want. Now, the surf riders, I think, wanted it because they wanted to surf, right? I'm okay with that. I got no problem with that. I had to come up, I had to really look at it and say, okay, before I go back and go change the permit, because we had to go change the permit a little bit, which is fine. I have to really look at it and don't get me wrong, I love that you guys wanted surf. I'm okay with that, but I didn't feel like it was a safe pier. That was what it boiled down to for me, because I couldn't find a one pile pier anywhere in the United States of America. Now, there might be something overseas, and let me just tell you, I am not the guinea pig kind of guy. I am not going to be the guinea pig that puts up a one pile pier and watch that thing not withstand and say, someone, yeah, it wasn't going to happen. So that was the only delay in this whole process from when we got funding that was about 4-month delay, because again, Scott Cross busted his tail, got that permit faster, but because we changed the footprint of the pier from this to this, GLO and the Corps and all these people said, you got to go back and get another permit. Okay, fine. That cost us 4 or 5 months. No problem. But it didn't cost any more money. And it was the best decision I believe we could have made for this community, not only for your great surf, and for the great shark fishing and whatever those debates are. I really believe this is a safer pier than having one pile on that. And I'm not saying the engineer did anything wrong. I think he wanted also to be like the guinea pig and say, I did it first. Don't we all? There's some things there. So here are the key features. Again, $28 million, 5,000 square feet of restaurant space, completion anticipated by the end of 25 or early 26 by Cal Marine. I'm sure we're going to have a problem or two, folks. It's a $28 million project. It's a pier in the middle of the water. I'm not going to tell you we're not going to have some blips. We're not going to have some delays, but I'm going to tell you that thing's going to get built. And if it's, God forbid, the last project I ever worked on, it's going to get built. So we built a 960-foot trestle that's been completed, and it's at the end of the, that's going out in the water. As you've seen, if you've been out there, and I do a lot of updates on Facebook, and I try to keep people involved and stuff. They've actually started putting the piers for the public space of the actual pier, right? It was kind of funny, and I get it. You try to get the word out as much as you can, and people are like, oh my gosh, that's going to be a really short pier, that trestle. I'm like, no, that's the trestle. We're good. It's going to be high. It's designed to withstand a 100-year storm with a 50-year lifespan. Okay. Now, what I learned about, most piers aren't that level. We over-insure because we can't get real insurance for practical money on a pier over water. It's a couple $1 million a year. Telling you I'd never get it done. So what we did instead was we over-designed it on purpose to hopefully make it last longer than at least yours and my lifetime, right? Okay. And so when we went in and did that, most piers are usually about a 20, 25-year lifespan, and not many of them are set to do a 100-year storm because it's just expensive. I mean, to do it is expensive. Okay, I think we can go to the next one. We'll have some more statistics on that. The restaurant, air conditioned restaurant space, the bids will go out soon. That's up to the Parks Board. They're going to do an RFQ and RFP. They're going to send that out. It's going to be an open process, open to whoever wants to apply. Nobody has any backroom deals going. I promise you, I've heard all that. Those theories out there too. Like I said, I heard forever I didn't want to build it. And I said, yeah, I'm going to spend 4 years of my life because I really just don't want to build this thing. Not really. It was just kind of silly, but it is what it is. It's 1,253 feet in overall length, which is longer than the last one. It's 20 feet in width, which is wider than the last one. It's 18.5 feet in height, which is higher than the last one. And it's a dual steel pile architectural design. The height is important too, because we tried to go higher because of storm surge, right? Now, you can't, if the storm surge is higher than the storm surge is higher, you can't go up 30 feet because you can't afford it. But that was the highest we could get, the widest we could get, and the longest we could get with the budget that we had. Again, all longer, wider, and higher than we had before. We've also got a diamond head design on the end, which I think is pretty cool. The engineers say that will help with the storm surge. If the T-head doesn't take it as well as the D-head, right? I don't ask me why, James, I don't know. I'm just telling you what the engineers told me. I'm not an engineer, but that's what they told me. And we have a lot of engineers on this project, and including John Michael, who I think is a member of your group, who has been invaluable to us on this project. I hired him as a consultant after we had engineers, and he really advocated strongly for this two-pile. I think more so for the surfing than he did for the engineering, and I'm good with that. But he really has been a huge help for us as well. Freeze Nichols has been involved in this. We've got COK, the local architect, really the only non-local company, and they have a local office, is Cowan, because there just aren't that many companies that build piers, right? But they do have a local presence here, so we've got a lot of local people doing a lot of work.
Hey, Brent, can you tell us about the pilings, the steel piling?
What do you want to know?
What the engineer said about steel pilings and whether they are actually going to last?
So
What they coated with, all that kind of stuff, do you know?
the steel, and we had a lot of discussions about this about 3 or 4 months ago, but I'm not going to remember all of it. So when you design the steel pier, the pilings, there's a corrosion thickness, and I'm not going to say this very well because I'm not an engineer, but there's a corrosion thickness that the thicker you make it, the longer it lasts. So these were designed along with the 50-year lifespan. What they told us, now, obviously, we might go back later and put some sleeves on it, but that was another almost $1 million that we just didn't have. And I'll be honest, I dug under every rock I could to, find what I could to get all of this done. And the report came in at the last minute with $500,000 for the restaurant, and the judge helped me with some of my ARPA funds, and I had some additional ARPA funds. But they have told us that this should last the 50 years, right? Now, will you see some corrosion on steel? Yes. But we're hopefully also going to set up a pier maintenance sinking fund, if you will, as the county budget will allow me to have some of that set aside for exactly that kind of thing. Because that was the question in the room that, I asked was, okay, what's the deal? Well, they said, here's why it'll work. And if you go back and redesign, we're going to have to delay again. And we're not even sure the concrete's going to do any better. And it was weird because at first the steel was more expensive and then the concrete was more expensive. And so when we got there, concrete was going to add a ton more cost, but not necessarily any more lifespan. So the engineers made a decision based on the timing of it being steel.
The reason why I ask that is because a lot of people have commented about it. A lot of people are skeptical that steel is going to last in that environment.
Me too.
Was there any discussion with the engineers about sacrificial anodes like you would have on a boat or on a ship or offshore drilling rig?
The answer is I don't know that one.
Or pipelines that's, this is a well-known technology.
Tell me what it is, I'm sorry.
So you have a sacrificial anode that's generally made out of zinc, and it's a less noble metal than steel. So it goes away before the steel does.
Okay.
It's actually an electrical
I
process.
can ask the question, but I don't remember those discussions. And
Yeah.
I wish I was an engineer and had a better feel for that, but we had Land, Freeze Nichols, Hanson, and Jacobs in the room. So I had those 4 engineering firms, and they all told me to do this. I'm being honest. If I can't rely on 4 engineering firms that are good at what they do to tell me that this is going to last 50 years and 100 years, then
John Michael and I had that discussion. I was skeptical of it, and he flat told me, he says, oh, it'll absolutely last.
that's what he.
500 rigs in the Gulf to tell you that it's lasting pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, they're not built yet. So, I mean, I got to trust it. The experts in all 4 of them in the room, all 4 of those, this was the way to go.
Those zinc anodes there's a place on navigation that fabricates those. 'Cause we use a bunch
On the fabricates this.
the zinc anodes.
Okay.
If you attach whatever frequency to the steel.
Let's have a conversation with John. It's
Might be something you do later on.
could be, yeah, no, and that might be better than sleeves too. It might be.
You weld the tabs on now and then you can bolt them up.
Right. All wiring and bolts.
Do we know the average water depth at the end of the pier?
I do not know.
16 feet more or less. Used to be.
Yeah.
Philippe might know. You did some latest work earlier.
What was the length of the original bottom hall?
1,200 feet. 1,200 feet.
Yeah, we're not that much longer, but I mean, it's still long.
Another 50 feet plus being wider, that's really good. Just, we were always having problems with the fishermen out there getting in arguments because it would be crowded, and then we have the tourists that would want to go out and look around, and just wasn't enough space. So this is good.
So that would, I don't know if you're gonna hit on it, but why was you hit on it that the header is gonna be, instead of a T shape, a different shape.
Diamond head, yeah.
How is that gonna be situated? Because as a fisherman, that is a horrible design.
No, it's gonna be a wide diamond head though. I mean, it's not gonna be like narrow. It's gonna still be a wide, it's gonna be the same width as the T head, it's just a different shape on the end. And that's what, again, the engineers came back and said, this is gonna be the way to go for storm surge to protect the piers though, that, because the T heads don't take it as well as the diamond heads. And again, I don't have a scientific answer for that. That's just what the engineers all, I'm telling you, you get 4 engineers in the room and they all agree, I'm gonna go with them.
I'm sorry, some of those engineers are being used for the desal plant, so I don't have a lot of confidence in them. So.
I have a lot of confidence in John. I really think, I mean, this is, I did, and I'm not saying I don't have confidence in the others, but, I'm not trying to like tout one engineer or the other, but I'm just saying, John is very environmentally conscious and very much into making sure this is done the right way from a community standpoint. And at the end of the day, and all 4 of them agreed, and him included, but I didn't, but there was, look, I'm skeptical on steel too, right? And I mean, they had convinced me on the steel. I had 2 or 3 conversations with them before I would do it because I was like, oh, that just doesn't sit well with me. And it's the same with the diamond. I'm telling you, I'm like, tell me how this is going to work. And they show you, and you probably should have one of them come in with a model and show you how it works because they're very conscious of the fishermen. They're very conscious of it.
That's funny because every portrait I see up there ain't a single fisherman in there.
Well, they're not going to find me. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, everybody's out there pointing with binoculars and, surfboards and stuff, but I've never seen a fisherman since y'all started portraying all the pictures for years. Like, I've not seen a single fisherman out there.
Draw some in, but I mean,
Something at least that lets us know that we're part of the program too.
There's no question about that. Bob Hall is one of the favorite fishing spots.
Yeah, we built this for fishermen. I mean,
Yeah.
that's all, this is for is for fishermen. I don't need, if you want me to go draw some fishermen on.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Up there.
I mean, you don't think it's a freaking fishing pier, I could laugh. I mean, I'm really like that.
Well, the reason why I asked that is because like the overhead deals and stuff like that is like whoever designed that didn't really think that when they were originally talking about they were gonna have the overhead shading halfway up the pier, this, that, and chairs, and I was like, dude, they don't.
I think there's some more pictures you can see. Okay, this is just some different. I think you'll see down there, and you can't see it real well, but if you see here, these are just lighting, right? And they're still working on that, so we're gonna get, there's people that want shade, and there's people that are worried about it because it's gonna interfere with the fishing. So we haven't done that yet, because we're trying to be cognizant of people that sit out there and are frying, that want to be out there and enjoy the pier, because other people besides fishermen do enjoy the pier, right?
Mhm.
But I also have heard that loud and clear from the fishermen that it screws up the casting, right? So that's why we haven't put a lot of that out there, because we don't know what we're going to do yet. And honestly, I was just trying to get the pier funded and built. Shade structures and lighting, I can do that later. I'm not saying we're not thinking about it, because we are, but lighting's on.
But just a heads up, if you put any kind of shade structure or chairs, designated chairs out there, there's gonna be a lot of people that get real protective on it. I ran into that at, Cole Park Pier. I went out there, took my kids out there, and man and child were sitting there and they're fishing with little courts right there. And I've got my 10-foot rods that I fish on Bob Hall Pier with. And the first thing out of his mouth, just don't cross my line. Like, I mean, he's like 2 feet in front of the pier. I was like, wow, okay.
It's only a fishing pier. I'm spending so much money. Yeah. Yes, sir.
What's the 20 feet in width going to be covered with?
Covered with,
Is it planks or is it big
it's a
concrete?
wood, it's on there or not. It's a, material. It's not, I don't think it's the, nice question. I don't think it's got the cement planks like the other one did.
The other one had big concrete.
Yeah.
We had concrete panels, and the theory
And
was
they were-
that in the event of a storm, those could be removed and stacked out, but there's just not enough warning.
They
time.
come up and they come down.
Yeah, they pop up and down. They did their job. It's just when you get down on top of them, that's what happens. If it's underneath, they'll pop up and they'll pop back down. But like Jim said, you can't get them out quick enough. I can't remember. I'll get you.
I was thinking that planks would be better. We could replace them.
right, and I've got to go back and look, and I'm sorry, I should know that, but I can't remember what.
Is it the same material on Cole Park?
I don't even know what's on Cold Park.
It's like a hard plastic kind of deal that looks like wood?
I suspect it'll be, and I don't know, but I suspect it'll be a concrete deck, because if you plant that, it's gonna be so full of debris,
Right.
you know, dead bait and hooks and everything else. And, you know, you don't have the manpower in the Parks Department to go out there and clean that pier every day.
Right. When I leave here, I'll get an answer and I'll text it back to Cliff before it's over. I just can't remember, but I think he's right. And I know there's wood, you know, on the sides, but I can't remember what they ended up putting on the bottom. All right.
One more thing though, sorry, that's fine. So, at a recent meeting, one of our meetings, somebody suggested on the lighting, go with dark sky lighting, as much as possible, so it's not as disruptive to the turtles.
Okay.
And people,
Dark sky.
yeah.
Can you send me that and the other stuff you're talking about so I can get that over to the folks and look at? Because I don't think they've made the final decision on the lighting, but by any means.
You know, lighting is really important because the people in Port Aransas, I've got numerous complaints here recently about the lighting on that pier over there because they complain that it's just all over everything. So that's,
We have to.
that's going to be important to decide.
I agree. I agree.
What about the tide house? Is it gonna go back?
What?
The tide house, Noah had a tide station at the very end of the pier.
They never came back around and said they wanted to do it. It was a $400,000 ad and we don't have it.
That's Noah money that they should
Right.
pitch in.
Right. They either, they knew.
Y'all would allow that if they would.
100%. We wanted them in, but they just, to the last, to my knowledge, they didn't come in. We pushed it right up to the edge. We could add it later, but we don't have the money to spend it. I mean, they were gonna do it, and I think it maybe came in higher than they thought, and so they didn't end up coming in on it, but we're hopeful that they will, because it's a very important aspect out there, but we just didn't have $400,000 or $500,000 extra laying around to build that one platform, to build that one.
Well, the most important part is we be sure there's a certain.
There you go.
We're working on that.
But not on a shade structure.
I did hear something that they were gonna build a lower deck toward the end of the pier to help shark fishermen release their sharks down there rather than, okay,
You're looking at it, that's the pier,
okay.
that's it, we didn't have any extra. money.
Well, as hearsay, that's why I'd rather confirm it.
Do what?
It was hearsay, that's why I'd rather confirm it, yeah.
I don't have any, there's no, yeah, no, sir. Unless someone got something, and I wasn't watching, but I don't think so. All right, these are just some drawings that, how it's gonna look, these are the renderings you see, okay, gonna have a cool mural on there, that's gonna be space there, I think it's gonna be something that everybody's gonna be pretty happy with. Well, I mean, we can't please everybody, but we're gonna do the best we can, but as you can see on these renderings, this is just lighting, no shed structures on there, we believe we heard the fisherman loud and clear on that. Go ahead. That's the backside of the restaurant space. That's the interior, that may be tweaked depending on who gets it and how they want to do it, but that's kind of the look that. Go ahead. And these are some of the projects, and I'll get out of your way. These are some of the projects that the TERS is doing on the island, and this was kind of what we were talking about here. And all the stuff that's going on out there, all of these are city projects, except for Briscoe King, where we were able to go in and get something for the county to be able to use, and that's money that the county is participating in. A lot of stuff going on at the island. The good thing about the TERS is, unless people spend it, it's a reimbursable expense for developers, not for the county. We got our money because we're the county. But if a developer comes in and does, like Cap and the gypsy, if they don't build it, they don't get it, right? It's got to be fully done, fully certified, fully occupied, has its certificate of, occupation, whatever it is that you have to do to say it's finished, then they get their money reimbursed. So no harm, no foul. That's the great thing about the TERS is unless somebody performs, they don't get their money. So that's just kind of, I think that's it. I think that's the last one on there maybe. But there you go.
Quick question. The House bill and the Senate bill that we were kind of talking about the other day where they're trying to close down sections of beaches at will by SpaceX. You know, it was real open-ended. When you read through it on the fine print, it says any guideline on that. Do you have any updates on what's going on with that?
That's in Hostess bill, right? It's catching a lot of grief on it.
I'm talking about that.
Yeah, Cliff's been on top of that.
Yes.
We got a lot
All over that.
Yeah, I'll let y'all do that. Because he's catching a lot of grief on it. I think his intent's been a little misconstrued, but I'm not getting in on that. I don't want it.
But I'm just curious on it because, I mean, is it gonna block us from being able to use the pier if it goes through kind of deal? So I don't know if that's just your deal. I didn't know.
If there's anything else I can help you with, let me know. If you'll send me an email, I'll get those answers. I'll find out right now and send Cliff a text back. Yes, sir.
Is there anywhere we can see the plans of the pier?
Yeah, we
Is
could,
that accessible?
yes. I mean, if someone wants to shoot me an email, we'll send you what we got. It's all been put on the website, but I don't know where, I can't point you to on the website. It was on there when we approved it. And it's 400 or 500 pages of stuff.
What
So,
website?
well, it was on its backup to the Nueces County. When we had it and approved it, it was on its backup on the agenda, but I don't know if it's still on there. So if you want to shoot me an email, I'll send you what you need to look at it. It has all the mechanical, it's got more plans.
I think that it would answer a lot
Yeah,
of questions.
absolutely.
Right. Construction of it.
Well, that and like when y'all have these meetings, I know a lot of guys can't make it to the afternoon meetings when y'all hold the commissioner's court.
You can go by Zoom. We still allow people by Zoom, just so you know.
Okay, well, that kind of answers my next question, because it's been real hard to keep up with what's going on and stuff like that. So when I heard about this, I was like, yeah, I'm leaving. I shut down my shop and came over here, so.
Yeah, they're all on, you can go back and look, they're all recorded, and they're all online, you can go back and see them all, whenever it's on there, so you can always go watch it. We'll allow everybody in on Zoom, you can comment on Zoom, we still allow, I think we'll always allow it, it just is. So, but it's all, but thank you, it is all recorded, if you want to go back and watch any of that.
I'll find it when it's there. Because sometimes y'all talked about it, sometimes y'all didn't too. So.
Falling asleep.
Yeah.
All right, anyway, but I'll get you those answers back to you and we'll get it going. Sounds good. Just send me that. Thank you all very much.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Brent, if I could say one thing, I served on the Parks Board for, I don't know how many years, at least 15, something between 15 and 20 years, under 3 different commissioners. And Brent was the first county commissioner that came out to Parks Board meetings, took an interest in everything that we were doing, and most importantly, got us funding from the county to do projects. How much do you think you brought in aside from Scott's grant?
Lots of millions. I mean, 28 just alone on that one, and then all the renovations we've done, I haven't added it up, but 70, 80, 90, I don't know, it's a lot.
Yeah, and prior to Brent, we got nothing from the county. That's why the parks were in the condition they were in before he came along. So he deserves a lot of credit. I know people have ragged him about the design, this and that, but he's been a great county commissioner. He's an advocate for the parks. He's an advocate for the surfers, and he's done a great job.
And most of all, he's an advocate for beach access.
Beach access too.
Absolutely. Looking forward to your event this summer too. Being proud to sponsor that. I was out there last year, and that's such a cool event that the surf riders do with those disabled kids.
What he's talking about make promises happen surf camp for the disabled. We've been having it. Last year was our 25th year. He came out and witnessed what we were doing, and now the county is one of our sponsors.
Doing great work. I really appreciate all you do for this area. So thank you all very much.
So the first time we've even had a sponsor. There we go.
Morgan's got them. Morgan, he kind of sponsors that. Surf.
Well, yeah, he does. Not with funds.
Not with funds.
No, not with money.
All right, so we're gonna get into the usual stuff here. So I lead the Skip the Plastic program for the chapter. For those of y'all who aren't familiar with it, Certified Foundation nationally has a program called Rise Above Plastics. Years ago, I actually looked back at my notes, in 2009 is when we started this program here, due to the plastic we were seeing in beach cleanups. And I went to the Billy Sandifer Big Show cleanup this weekend, and I would say 95% of what we picked up was made out of plastic. So not much has changed. But the name Skip Plastic the credit goes to Jim over here, because we said, Rise Above Plastic sounds a little ostentatious for Port City, and so we came up with Skip Plastic. All right, so something that's coming up later this week, which I'm really excited about, is the 7th annual Texas Plastic Pollution Symposium. Jay's Tunnel, myself, and some others got this going. And this year is going to be at the Houston Zoo. Last year was here on the campus. And the reason we actually got started this is there were, I was working on plastic pollution and stuff, and I'd go to a politician's office and I'd say, man, the science is showing this stuff's bad in the environment. And they go, well, where's the science? And I say, well, Great Pacific Garbage Patch. They go, well, that's like thousands of miles away. So I asked Jason, I said, are people doing research on this? He goes, yeah, they are, but they're not talking to each other. So this allows not the scientists to go talk. There's really great presentations coming up. And I'm also going to be presenting, but it's going to be really cool. And if you're interested in watching it, you can watch it virtually. You don't have to sit there for the whole thing, obviously, because it's all day long. But the website is TexasPlasticPollutionSymposium.com. You go on there and you register and you can watch it on Zoom. So there really are going to be a lot of great presentations. All right, so let's jump into the meat and potatoes here. So these are the bills currently in the Texas legislature on plastic pollution. There is a bill seeking to ban balloon releases statewide. Do y'all know that Corpus Christi has an ordinance that was passed back in the 80s prohibiting balloon releases? Almost every beach cleanup I go to, I find balloon ribbons and balloons, right? And turtles are mistaken for jellyfish. And I found animals, dead turtles with ribbons wrapped around them and things like that. So that'd be great to see. These bills, this is what I've been working on with some other groups. And Chairman Hunter, Representative Hunter, Todd Hunter, he is a chairman of a committee, of the Calendars Committee. He's the third most powerful guy in the Texas House. He's helping us with this. But it was filed by Erin Zwiener in the House. She's out of the Buda area up near Austin. And then in the Senate, this is filed by Judah Safarini. And the reason that's significant is she is the vice chair of the Natural Resources Committee in the Senate. And we're hoping to get a hearing in her committee. Something that Representative Hunter promised Jason and I was that we would get to meet. So this is our third go at this bill. So we've been working on this since 2019. Probably about 6 years ago, he got us a meeting with the executive director of TCQ and heads of the offices. And our bill was very ambitious at that point. And this is after the Formosa Plastics settlement, where Formosa Plastics up in Point Comfort, the Loco Bay area, was found guilty of violating the Clean Water Act, right? And settled for $50 million. We met with the executive director. Later on, we had subsequent meetings. This is during COVID. So we started doing Zoom meetings. And I couldn't believe it. The head of TCQ said, I resent being in these meetings, being pulled into these meetings. I thought, well, you're the head of the environmental organization for the state. Shouldn't you be concerned about pollution? And now he's in the governor's office, by the way. There's a new executive director. And so one of the things that Todd Hunter got us so far was a meeting last week. Jason and I drove up. We drove up to Austin for a 45-minute meeting. We drove up because that's how it works, right? And we showed up in our suits and the whole bit. And the executive director wasn't there, but we did talk to the head of the Office of Water, Water Quality Planning, Enforcement, Pollution, and the head of Waste. And those are some heavy hitters, actually. They'd already done an in-depth analysis of the bill. This is what, this is the bill right here, all the legal language and everything. What happens is if you write a bill, by the way, something I've learned, is you give this language to the state rep or senator to file it. And what they do is it goes to the legislative council. And these are these nonpartisan lawyers that work for the legislature. And they put it in the legal language and fit it in with the Texas Administrative Code language and everything like that. So they changed quite a bit, but they kept the meat and potatoes of the bill. So it's still an effective bill.
That way nobody can understand it.
Yeah. Right. But they actually do kind of fit it into existing law, and everything, right? And so what the bill, basically it seeks to get TCQ to consider plastic pollution when doing water quality assessments of watersheds throughout the state. Also when doing any sort of rulemaking on water quality standards, it has to be considered just like other types of pollution. Then it also would require the facilities to do monitoring, actually looking for these things outside their sites. And trust me, there's plenty of it outside the site. If you guys have ever heard of Nurdle Patrol, I urge you to go to nurdlepatrol.org and click on view data, and you'll see all the nerdle pollution, on the coast and in them. And Jay, this is Jay's tunnel. For anybody who doesn't know this guy, he works at the next building right over there at the Art Research Institute. He's the guy that has the beach combing show. Anybody seen the beach combing show? He's fantastic. He does all that with a GoPro on his phone. Anyway, he's the one who started Nerdle Patrol. And nerdle is a cute term, but what we're really talking about is pre-production plastic pellets, flakes, and powders. And that's what these big factories make. That's the first type of plastic that's made, that is then shipped, usually by train, but also by ship or truck, to facilities that melt it down and squirt it in the mold to make plastic stuff, right? And the problem is they get out in the environment. Jason, the week before we had, went up to Austin, he went up to Dallas, and there was a lake in Dallas that had they found 100 nurdles in 10 minutes along the shoreline, right? So it's not just on the coast, but it's predominantly on the coast. That's kind of a joke. Jason he does a slideshow on nurdles all the time. He's got a picture of me holding that. He takes pictures every 5 steps. And so he has a picture of me like that. So I said, well, we got to take one of you like that. Now I'll show you. We've got hopes for this bill. I'll probably have to go up for, hopefully at least one hearing. Don't have, it's an uphill battle, right? We're fighting a big industry, very powerful industry. Yes, sir.
Approximately how many members of this organization in the state of Texas would writing emails to or calling or legislators help to support these bills? And I'm thinking, I'll have my camera take a picture of that. If you guys can send all that information out to the total membership.
Right.
On what
Well,
these
if
bills
the bill gets a hearing, that's the next step, right? So right now, I'm pretty sure that Zaffarini's gonna, Zaffarini, a lot of this is about personal relationships, and so Zaffarini's staffer, that I talked to grew up in Corpus Christi, right? And he's a really sharp guy. He gets it, right? So pardon me?
What's his name?
Morgan Cap. Anyway, he let Environment Texas know that she's thinking about getting in a hearing, and she's vice chair of this committee, so that's important, right? Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's 4028, 2441.
Yeah.
Talking to Will and other people that are taking these samples, and
Right.
Formosa is under zero discharge.
Yeah.
And they get fined if they find one nurdle.
They pay a penalty. They don't get.
They pay a penalty for one nurdle.
Yeah.
They pay a same penalty for 500,000 nurdles.
But every day that those guys go out there 3 times a week to look, they find. Right?
Yeah, they find something, but there's nothing in there to say, if they're gonna fine us for 3 days in a row a week, let's let them all go. And
Yeah.
the quantity doesn't matter because there needs to be some teeth in that ruling. And I don't think it's probably too late to introduce into that bill.
No, well, so the bill originally, there's no enforcement side to this bill, okay? What it requires the facilities to do is do their own monitoring and report it to TCQ, just as you would an oil spill. So state law says that if you have a facility and you have a little bit of oil go out in the water and it creates a sheen, and I've been at facilities that this has happened, that, a sheen half the size of this table. By law, you have to call the state within 24 hours.
Coast Guard will be on me too.
Right, so, well, you call GLO or TCQ, and then they all start talking to each other, right? But, that's all it takes to have to call them. Yet, we're talking about millions and millions and millions of these pellets and powders and flake particles going out in the water body, which are just, the science is now, it's not settled, but there's a lot of science showing this is really harmful in the marine environment and in us if we eat seafood, right? You guys have probably seen a lot of the press on that recently. So I'll get to your point on another slide. I do want to talk about one other thing. So this is another set of bills that's making another run at the legislature. Anybody ever bought a Coke or anything? You look on the can and it says, 10-cent deposit in Maine, Michigan, all these other states, right?
They used to have it here in Texas.
Container has a value, right? So that's a nickel sitting on the ground, right? And so, that gets picked up and recycled, right? What a novel idea. My first job in Houston was at a grocery store called Handy Andy, and I was the bottle boy. I actually put the glass bottles in these wood cases, that everybody bought their, and I remember going to 7-Elevens as a kid with an armful of bottles, and going, oh, we're gonna get all kinds of king.
Yep.
So it actually works really well. So that's, and this photo, by the way, so, this is, near Robert and Robert Drive and Ocean Drive. That was Saturday, after all the rain we had, and you can't really see it, but there's tons of containers, the drink containers sitting there, right? That have been washed off the street. Remember we had a little bit of rain on Thursday? Wednesday, Thursday? So, and by the way, that last photo over there, I got a friend in Italy, we go to visit him occasionally. That is a reverse vending machine. So you go up and you stick your container in the machine and you get, tokens, right? That you can either redeem inside the store or they're worth money. And it's that simple. This can be done, this has been done, it can be done in Texas. Now, what are the odds of passing it? Slim. I went to a hearing several years ago for similar bills, and they did a fantastic job. They laid it all out. They designed a program like Michigan's, and they, the guy from the lobbyist for the bottling industry, the beverage container bottling industry from DC got up there and said, no, it's not going to work. Blah, blah. Okay, bang, dead. Done. That's how this game works. So.
But a lot of those guys are voted into office, right? The ones that make those choices.
Yeah.
So like he was saying, by sharing the information and getting a lot more people involved compared from then to now is a huge difference. And
And I'm not supporting this, but who has their phone? I made it bigger this time.
well, I am live on my YouTube and we got 200,000 followers. So they're all seeing that right now.
Urging them to support the bill that I'm working on.
So this can actually go nationwide because with the way the Gulf of Mexico works, Padre Island National Seashore is basically the bottom of the toilet bowl. Everything that gets dumped anywhere along the Gulf Coast comes to our beach. So this shouldn't just be a Texas thing. This should be a country thing.
Right. Well, and it has been filed in Congress before. It's called the Plastic Pellet Free Waters Act.
I'm talking about the balloon deal too.
Oh, yeah, yeah. There was an omnibus plastics bill that was filed several sessions ago in Congress. The omnibus bills don't move, right? So now they're kind of breaking the rules off that. And one of the recent parts of that, a couple of weeks ago, I got to meet him the day after he did this. Lloyd Doggett, who's a congressman out of the Austin area, he filed a Farewell to Foam Act in Congress, right? So all styrofoam. There would be a ban on styrofoam, beverage containers, and all kinds of stuff. And I can't tell you how bad the styrofoam pollution is on our shorelines on our bay. I've got too many pictures of it, including from Saturday. It breaks up into smaller and smaller pieces, becomes microplastics really easily. All right, everybody got that? Don, you got it? All right.
The link is broken though.
Yeah.
What's that?
Oh, it came up for me.
Mine
Yeah,
did.
mine came up. Texas Cafe for
Yeah. So Joan, talk to Joan, she made it work.
Environment, Texas.
Interesting. So moving on, a little segueing a little bit into an organization that we're part of, Coalition. Kate, hopefully you've heard of us, this Coastal Alliance to Protect Our Environment. We formed this because we were concerned about the cumulative impact of all the industrial growth that's happening around our bay. Desalination is part of that, but also the water pollution and air pollution. I am an environmental consultant, and I can tell you that these industries are discharging millions of gallons of polluted water every day. And it's kind of like you pick up the carpet, and shove the stuff into the water, and then it goes away. Well, guess what? It doesn't go away. And air pollution, we're talking about tons and tons of annual air pollution, tons of gases. Think about that. We're talking about gas. We're talking about tons, right? And so there is a cumulative impact when you have a lot of industrial facilities in one area. If you don't really think that's the case, go to Beaumont or Pasadena or Texas City or Freeport. We've got a lot of that on the coast already, right? So that's a lot of groups under one umbrella, very diverse, lots of groups. And check out the website sometime. There's some great information on desalination. But what I want to just give you guys the latest scoop on the city's Inner Harbor, plan, where it stands right now, desalination, right? So they've got all the permits they need to build this facility, right? And you can see the X here, that's the Hillcrest neighborhood, that's where the actual facility would be, its pipes would be out here in the Inner Harbor. You can see the Lexington out there on the very edge of the photo, right? Give you kind of a reference. And so last Tuesday, City Council, residents asked the City Council to do what's called far field modeling on desalination. The modeling that has been done for that Inner Harbor plant is fairly limited. We've got a modeler here, right? Modeling is very complex, right? Very dynamic. I think they first did a 2D model and see, he's going, what? You know, and they're expensive, are they not, to run? So the Port of Corpus Christi was proposing a desalination plant on Makita Channel, which is over by Portland, right? And they did far field modeling to see what would happen to the brine discharge. And they found that the brine was going to settle, it's heavier, it's going to settle out, create a lens on the bottom. And so they dropped the plans for that plant, right? And so we're asking the city to do far field modeling. And Selena represented our chapter and supported, you know, in support of that. Do you have anything to tell us about the meeting itself, or?
Well, I was born and raised in Corpus, and I have never been to a city council meeting before, and that was quite eye-opening. So, yes, and, you know, I was not the first in line. I think I was about the 20th followed up. And Neil had nicely written out a nice little blurb for me to say. It was very straight to the point. Identified myself as part of Surfrider, so that we support far-field modeling for the city's proposed desal plant. Thank you very much. But there was a lot of antagonistic, shall I say, discussion as we went through. And so there's a lot of really strong sentiments out there. I would say the huge majority of the 20 people who went before me, I think at least half of them referenced desal and the need for this far-field modeling. So they had a lot of information that went on so long. You only get 3 minutes if you're Corpus resident. So I was encouraged that there were a lot of people who were asking for this far-field modeling. And I was encouraged that there was a lot of people there. I mean, it was at noon, it was the middle of the day. So I plan to go again. I think there's a lot that we can gain from being that. I mean, I know it's the middle of the day, but to be there and for them to know that we're listening and we're following. I wasn't able to stay because you don't have to stay. I needed to get back to work or work here. But apparently the discussion continued and there was quite a bit of give and take. And there was, you know, you were able to get some feedback. So not perhaps, I think they were saying like you're supposed to address the council in general, not people specifically. But like the lawyer, there was a lawyer that's sitting there would reference some things, like if you said something, but they at least heard you. You got to say your part. So that was great.
And it's on the record.
Yeah. So thanks for asking.
Oh, thank you for going.
And thanks for putting yourself through the misery.
Yeah.
So,
Fun experience.
Well, just give you a little heads up on that. A lot of those names that get called that are on the phone or whatever, I've been telling them to do that because a lot of them can't work. And I tell them, just go say your name. And if you by chance are on break or lunch when they call your name, well, then you can do it because we all work. Like they all work. They hold it middle part of the day where a lot of people can't be paid to be up there. So a lot of those names you'll hear are because we're telling them to go up there, and I'll reiterate it. Hey, we're against it. This is what we want and stuff like that. So now if y'all actually look online and you hear it, you know, you'll see name was called, and that's all because we're getting the word out for it. So
but yeah, it's hard to get to, it's hard to attend. I've attended a lot of city council meetings, not so much recently. You do learn a lot about how the city is run.
yeah.
So it looks like Kiewit is the one who would be in charge of doing the
They're,
modeling.
they're
They
going
don't
to
build it.
construct, they've been selected to construct. So
Is there a conflict of interest there?
I might be, I couldn't tell you. But you can see they're gonna do, so Kiewit is gonna do a limited far field modeling, not sure what that means. And citizens who are opposed to the plant are hoping to get the city council to vote to support a full one. And if not, they might even do crowdfunding to support the cost of modeling. Do you have any ballpark figure for what modeling costs? You know, it's all over the map.
Hundreds of thousands.
They were talking about, one of them, they were talking about like 50,000, because the gentleman went up there during the last meeting, and he worked for a company like that, and he was saying that it's a little less than 50,000. So even if the city doesn't do it, that we were looking to start our own just GoFundMe kind of deal to set it up and get it done, because I mean, us trying to get the city to do something that they know is gonna shut it down, you know, they're gonna fight tooth and nail, because I'm sorry, if you follow the money, there's no way they're gonna allow their money to go to waste if it's already in their pocket kind of deal.
If you have somebody who already has a grid and a model,
Mhm.
then you add the salinity mixing, then that's cheaper.
There's like a big time environmental group that might donate to cause.
Surfrider's not losing money.
The Sierra Club, I've seen where they've done some big stuff like that. But I can tell you right now, just looking at the picture, you can tell the current doesn't run out. And they keep saying, oh, it's gonna meet up at the bay. Right there's
It's a
proof.
dead-end channel.
It's gonna go to the right and to the left where there's zero current.
Well, I also understand you've got a power plant up here on the north side.
Mm-hmm.
It's pulling cooling water this way.
Yep.
So, it might actually end up in the Oasis Bay. That's where they're discharging.
I would say probably the best locally funded environmental group would be the Texas Campaign for the Environment, but they focus more on like people power than the science, because even if you do a model, most of the city isn't gonna understand the science behind it, so that's why they haven't looked for funding to like fund scientists to actually do that model, but I think we should definitely encourage them to.
Miriam, did you have something? Mike, I'll get to you.
I just wanted to ask if anyone could go up and speak.
Anybody?
Yep.
And it helps if you're a resident, but, you know, but we all are, you know, so, because sometimes people come from out of town to speak.
Yeah, they get 1 minute for non-residents, and if you're a resident, you
3
get 3.
minutes isn't very long.
Yeah, I think
Right.
it is,
Did you say that the saline that they're discharging back into the canal,
Mhm.
settles on the bottom?
It's heavier than the other salt water. It's got more salt in it. It's heavier, so it has a tendency to settle out.
And that's bad for the bottom.
Pardon me?
That's bad for the bottom of,
Well,
Ship
any
channel.
any benthic organisms, you know, that live there and can't swim away,
Shrimp.
you know, it can kill them, right? There's, you know, certain species like certain ranges of salinity, and Corpus Christi Bay, help me here, folks, it's like 33 parts.
It's almost seawater, real close to seawater.
Yeah.
30.
But Corpus Christi Bay is already becoming more saline already, without adding desalination to it. And biologists at that building right over there are concerned about that. So,
Let's not forget about the 3 million gallons of sludge that they've also got permitted to release every day
yeah.
with that. It's not just the saline, it's 3 million gallons of sludge on top.
Into the water. Right?
And yeah, but you and me go drop a drop of oil in there, we get charged $50,000 or something like that. So
but that's bad for the bottom of the bay.
It is potentially bad for the benthic life that lives on the bottom, yes. And these are the worms and things like that that fish feed on, you know, it's part of the food chain, right? So that's the concern. So last thing here is there is still a HUD case, the Housing and Urban Development case on discrimination and civil rights pending. It hasn't been decided yet because the Hillcrest neighborhood brought that to HUD, right? So they closed it and then they reopened that in October. So we don't know what the standing is on that. So that's it on D-cell for now. And I'm not even going to get into the Harbor Island one today. So,
that's still not even up and running, right?
oh, it's not built. Harbor Island's not built.
Or the one in the back bay that was built,
The one
Door.
with CC Polymers
yeah.
is ready to go. That's the one that the city's been talking to about potentially buying water from. So this is just an event that we had recently. I wasn't able to, I was out of town. But Jackie, we're probably there, right?
I wasn't at that one.
Okay,
We had sailing.
all right,
So
okay.
that's from the last one.
So this is the second one we've done recently. We go around and apply these markers on the storm drain inlets. We're working with the city's stormwater department, right? And cities have their storm drain systems, they have an NPDS permit is what it's called. And then for their MS4, their municipal storm sewer, separate sewer system. And one of the components to having that permit is they have to do public outreach and educate the people about what you shouldn't be tossing down the drain, right? So we actually helped the city out, and that was over by Oso Bay area on that. And we're gonna do another one, we're gonna try to do them every fall and every spring. Campus, we were gonna work with the A&M campus here and do the campus. This is a separate system from the city. The city does not own the storm drain system. At some point, we might do that, right? That'd be awesome. There's like 200 drain inlets. Now, before I move on to speaking about campus, by the way, Miriam is over here. This month, at the beginning of this month, we had our first meeting of the Surfrider Foundation Student Club at Texas A&M Corpus Christi, which is pretty cool. And Miriam's the president. Rory was there. I saw her. So that was really cool. I got to go to it and see it start off, right? There's like 150 student clubs throughout the country, high schools and universities. So now we have one here on the campus, which is fantastic. When is the next meeting going to be? Okay, all right. We'll be talking. All right, so now Tommy couldn't make it, so I'm going to shift gears into the Blue Water Task Force. This is a water quality testing program that Surfrider has. The first lab that I worked with Surfrider was back when I had hair, probably in 1992 or something like that, in Santa Cruz, and we set up a lab in this guy's garage, and we got it done, right? But the concern is that what we're looking for is Enterococcus bacteria, and that's an indicator organism that generally when you have that, you have some sort of warm-blooded animals species somewhere in the mix. Okay, so that could be birds, it could be dogs, it could be horses, it could be people, but it's an indicator that you might have an issue. And then and we're not Enterococcus isn't necessarily bad for humans, but other stuff that's in waste can be bad. And anybody here, I've had waterborne illness from being in the ocean. Anybody else? No? That's good. That's good. And that's what we've actually seen so far. And by the way, they're gathering all other kinds of data here. So they're grabbing the water samples and they bring them to the lab right over at Tidal Hall, this next building across the way, new building across the way there. And Miriam works in the lab for Dr. Jeff Turner, and she runs the analyses. So that's the lower right-hand photo. That's actually the test itself. And if it fluoresces, you can see that cell is fluorescing under a black light. That means it's got bacteria. Right? So just to show you, and we do 3 locations right now. We want to expand as funding increases. So this is from last Thursday, okay? And I'm going to show you on the next slide how you can see this, how you can find this. But you can see here, this is Hall Pier location. This is at the north end of the seawall, and that is the north side of Packery Channel. So you see that red there? That's a high level, right? Well, what was happening last Thursday? It rained, right? When was the last time it really rained?
Months and months.
Months and months and months. All that stuff's getting washed out the streets, the parking lots, people's yards,
So are there signs that are put up like, the beach watch?
Well,
Are there
okay,
signs there as well?
so here's the thing. So in Texas, we have the Texas Beach Watch, right, which is funded by the General Land Office, which actually, by the way, is funded by Congress. Each state gets a certain amount of money to do water quality testing, and GLO, the General Land Office, is the agency in Texas that does it. And they do their sampling on Mondays, right? So then their sample results come out Tuesday or Wednesday. Well, what day do most people go to the beach, especially in the summertime? Weekends, right?
And they do sample here as well?
They do sample, so yeah, they have the signs that fold down, right? So all along the bayfront, and you can go to texasbeachwatch.org and you can see all their data and everything like that. You can see a map with what's green, what's not, and everything like that. So that's good. But we sample on Thursdays and they publish the data on Fridays because a lot of people want to go to the beach on Saturday, right? We also do it year round. A lot of times they're not doing it year round, right? They'll stop in the winter or something like that. So far, we've generally had good water quality, which is great. In the green zone here. And one of the reasons we want, people were starting to get sick, but we also wanted to get a baseline of what the water quality was like before you get more development on the island. Because when you get more development, you get more sewage pipes, you get more streets, urban runoff, all kinds of, more dogs, whatever, right? So we wanted to see what it was like. So far, we've actually had really good water quality at these locations. It was interesting to me, though, that this would have been on Thursday morning, right? That's high. Now, if you can see this graph right here, everybody see that red line? This was just above the red line. So it's not all that bad, okay? That's 104 coliform forming units, CFUs, of this coliform bacteria, right? That's just above the high limit. I've seen it, like in California, 10,000, stuff like that, right? So
Make you sick.
it could potentially make you sick. That's an EPA standard for unsafe contact, recreational contact.
See, but that's the north side of the Packery, right?
Right.
Which is way underdeveloped compared to the south side of the
Right.
Packery.
Let's see what's running out here. Corpus Christi Bay. Coming out.
So did y'all happen to check which way the current was running that day that y'all did these tests?
They keep a data sheet and everything, so
Mhm.
so they have all that information on the data sheet.
Okay, because that very well could have been to the south side had the current been running the other way.
I can answer part of your question there because I talked to Tommy after he took the sample.
Mhm.
And he told me that there was water built up on the beach because of the rain.
Yeah.
And that the city was out there with a front end loader making a trench so the water could drain off of the beach. When he took the samples, I asked him, I said, do you think the water that drained off the beach is what you got in your sample?
No.
And so he told me that they were also grading the beach a lot. So he and I discussed this at length, and that's what we think may happen. So not to mention that there was spring break prior to that also. With a lot of people.
And a lot of people let their dogs run loose on the beach.
Yeah.
Right? They don't pick up their dog's poop. And there's a good reason to pick up your dog's poop on a city street, in a park, or at the beach. And that's the reason right there.
There is no leash law at the
Yeah.
beach.
As long as the animal is under your control.
Policemen tell
What it
us
says.
there's no leash law.
Yeah. But, I mean, people they'll get out of their car and let the dog go, and the dog runs around for 2 hours, and nobody's picking up after him, and so it could be a result of that.
Yeah, but if you're in the state park, there is.
Yeah.
They
Well,
enforce
in
it.
state park, but at Packery Channel, I had a police officer tell me that there was no leash law.
Well, and he's partly right, but the actual ordinance says the dog has to be under your control. If you look at the
Run
ordinance-
around.
But, okay, so let's say we started getting red a lot there, right? What can we do? We can actually, so Dr. Turner's lab, Dr. Jeff Turner, over there at Tidal Hall, he's a microbiologist, very smart guy. Does a lot of research with DNA and everything. We can actually start doing DNA testing. And you can find out, well, okay, is this dog poop or seagull poop? Or, and then you can actually follow, and Surfrider has done this in other locations, you can follow and go upstream and find the source of the problem sometimes that way, right? So that's, but I don't expect that we're going to continue to see high results there. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I've done it for about a year and I've never seen a plate
Right.
lit up like that.
Right. Kind of exciting problem left.
Yeah, a little bit.
So again, here's everybody gets to try their QR code thing again. So if you want to see the results, there's 2 places you can go. taskforce.surfrider.org. That gives you the national map. You can see all the locations Surfrider tests. Also down in Costa Rica and Missouri, by the way. But then you can just go to QR code that takes you straight to our page. Right? Okay.
So is it safe to say that the resounding theme there is that we don't have a problem with the water quality?
So far, it's pretty good, right? Now, this is the Gulf beaches. Okay, that's the outside of the island versus in the bay, right? And
How long has this been happening?
we've been going 2.5 years now. Yeah.
So there's
So
a good amount
so
of data.
the data's been good.
Okay.
It kind of depends. Again, when I lived in Santa Cruz, California, you've got lots of city streets right up to a cliff. You've got, it's a different animal, right? Here we've got this barrier island. There's relatively small amount, Pat Suter would have debated us about how much development was on the island, or is on the island, but it's growing fast. I mean, every time you go out there, something looks different, right? So I imagine with time, you're going to get aging infrastructure. The island's made out of sand, and that's a good thing. In town where we live, I live 4 miles from here, and a few blocks in from the ocean, it's clay soil, right? So that soil moves around when it rains, and when it dries out, those sewage pipes are doing this. So all kinds of stuff's leaking, and that's not just here. That's all over the place. That's the whole country. You know how people talk about aging bridges, highways, and everything like that, right? Now the United States needs to spend more money on maintaining bridges. We also need to spend more money maintaining what's underground. Everybody again, that's that carpet you just pick up and hide stuff underneath. Don't think about it, right? But sewage pipes are leaking all over the country. All right, so Cliff, you are up.
Oh, boy. Well, I see a lot of tired surfers in here, so I'm gonna go over here and lean on the podium for you guys. I didn't get to surf today, but I'm gonna sympathize with you, okay? To get back to something that, Commissioner Chesney was talking about on the pier, whenever they were talking about the controversy between the single piling and the double piling pier, it got to be pretty hilarious because he said that he checked the internet all over to see if there's any such thing anywhere, and he couldn't find one in the United States anyplace. Well, I did the same thing. I got on the computer and I checked all over, and I couldn't find any anywhere either, except it wasn't a pier that I found. It was a freeway in China that was single piling. They had a 3.2 earthquake and it all fell over. So when I sent him the picture, so he forgot that part. He forgot to tell you about that, but I thought it was pretty funny. So, okay, so guys, what we got here, I did the beach report. The main thing with the beach report this time is the bad beach bills that we're fighting in the legislative session right now. Senate Bill 2188, Senator Hinojosa, and the companion bill is House Bill 4660 with Representative Lopez. These bills, what it's going to do is it's going to give SpaceX the authority to control access on Highway 4 going to Boca Chica if it's passed. And so the county has it now. Cameron County has that authority. And whenever there's some type of SpaceX launch or activity, the county closes it down. So, we couldn't figure out why. What's the problem here? Is the county not doing a good job? Why does SpaceX think that they should be able to control? So, there's a number of things that, on this bill that we oppose. And we met this past week with Representative Lopez by Zoom. Myself, representatives of all 3 Texas chapters. And we discussed this bill with her. She sat very patiently and listened to us. And when she did say stuff, we could tell that it was mostly SpaceX garbage, okay? They claim that they only ever closed that road, 300 hours, 12.5 days. Well, we have a guy who works down there who begs to differ. He told me that it was closed 98 days last year, different times, not full days, but different times, 98 days or times, from January to October. It's not even a full year. And it was closed that often. So they're using that fuzzy math that we used to all hear about, SpaceX is. And that's, so that's something we discussed with her. She sat very patiently and listened to us, kind of laughed whenever she said 300 hours because we, didn't believe that at all. And so there were some other things that she mentioned, saying that this bill would not cause the road to Boca Chica to be closed, any more often than it has been. Well, we don't believe that either, because SpaceX in the past we've had an agreement with them that they could only close it a certain number of days. They blew way past that and didn't even look back. And so we know that they don't stick to any of their agreements. They do whatever they want, when they want it, and they do it for as long as they want. and there isn't much you can do about it. That's what it seems like. So we think these bills are garbage, and Surf Rider is definitely going to fight these. You know, considering the current political climate, it's going to be an uphill battle for us to, hopefully get these things dropped, these bills. But we're going to fight the battle anyway because we think beach access is well worth fighting for. Anything that can happen in Boca Chica can happen here, Galveston, Surfside, or anywhere else. So,
Can I just show people?
sure.
So if you've never been down to Brownsville or Boca Chica, this is the highway, this is Highway 4 that comes from Brownsville, right? This is how Brownsville gets to the beach, right here, because it's farther to go to South Padre Drive, up this way, right? So you drive along and all of a sudden, here's a rocket launch pad right here. And I remember when they first started building this, like, wait, what? What's going on? And so I mean, literally, like, you drive right beside the facility. And if you go this way, it's about 2 miles to the Rio Grande, the mouth of the Rio Grande, right? And I've been there on weekends when it's just chock-a-block with families with their shade tents and hanging out on the beach.
I fished there in one tournament down there for shark fishing. And also too, on the verbiage on those, the bills, there is no specification as to what county that they're applying this to. They just say the Tidewater. So that's all the way up to Louisiana. It's not just being specific to that because every bill, anything, it's always the fine print. Oh, yeah, having big udders, it's just for this area. But in the fine print down here, it's, oh, no, but it's all the tidal water. Like, it's not being inclusive to just that area. It's everywhere else.
About the precedent that bills set when they become laws.
And the bills are always written in a way that's hard to understand.
You get further down into it, it also says that whether they vote the 2/3 or not, they're still gonna put it into effect as September 1st of 2025.
So what's happened with these bills here recently, it was in the Senate, Texas Senate, in the Natural Resources Committee. And they voted on it this last week, the second time, and of course, they passed it on. It'll go to the Senate, for their full consideration now in a vote. And, then after that, the House version will go to a committee in the House, and I don't know what that's gonna be yet because this bill hasn't, been voted on in the Senate yet. So once it goes to the House, we feel like it will have a bigger chance of having, more effect on it. Representative Todd Hunter, like Neil brought up earlier, is the chair of the, what is it? Calendars Committee. And so, I'm in contact with him 2 or 3 times a week. I text him all the time. I call him on the phone. Over the weekend, when he comes home, first thing he gets is a phone call from me. So, talking to him about what our chances are and how to go about it and everything, and he's really great at helping protect our beach access.
So I hate to interrupt. I'm just now reading that the House Bill 4661 and the Senate Bill 2230 is gonna make it a crime that if you don't evacuate the beach.
Yeah, it sure will. It would be a Class B misdemeanor. And if you violate it more than once, then they bump it up to a Class A. Now, I don't know what the penalties are for that, but
Wow.
there's already trespassing laws that apply, so there's really not any reason for these bills either. And we're opposing these bills also. We think they're ridiculous.
How do they define beach?
What's that?
How do they define the word beach?
Well, however they please.
Well, I mean, is it defined in the bill?
It doesn't go into detail.
Does it-
Says the
Beach goes-
tide waters. Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't, I don't believe that it extends north of the Jakes.
Okay, so it's a specific part of that beach that they're talking.
Yeah, mostly they're talking about all of Boca Chica.
So those are just companion bills to basic.
Right.
So my understanding is from talking to some of our members from South Padre, they fly drones. Whenever they want the beach closed over there, they fly drones all over the place, including in the bays, in the channel around and all that kind of stuff, so that if there's boaters and stuff, they warn them also. And refusing to leave, this bill would make it, Yeah, make it a crime.
So then, again, too, this would affect us up here because, again, it doesn't say to the jetty.
Right.
In that bill, it says any tidal water against any county, city along that coastline.
One part of the bill that I read that might help you out here. Part of it, and I think it was Senate Bill 2188, it applied to a certain population, 150,000, I believe it was 150,000 and
No, the city of 15,000, I believe it was.
but anyway, there is a specification in that bill.
They don't say the name of the county or anything like that, they describe it several ways.
So anyway, whenever we were talking to Representative Lopez, of course, our major concern is beach access, closing off the highway, the only road that goes out there. They close the highway out there, then, you don't get to use the beach. And so beach access is our first concern. But over the weekend, one of the concerns that I've been hearing more and more from people whenever this is discussed is, why are we having bills that would turn over a publicly funded highway to a private corporation? I mean, come on, all of our tax money paid for this, okay? So what kind of precedent are we trying to set here? We're opening up the can of worms here big time. And this is what I talked to Representative Hunter over the weekend about. And he told me, you know what, Cliff, that is a good point. So that tells me that maybe, whenever I talk to Representative Hunter or whoever about these things, they don't always hear the things, the opposition that I hear from this group, because all of you guys know the subject. You know how important beach access is. And so, whenever you guys tell me that, what's going on here? Why are we turning this over to, private corporation? That makes good sense. And that makes good sense to a lot of people. Okay. And I think it's a very, very good point.
That's a huge one because if they privatize the beach, then that means they could sell all the beaches off and then they can close it anytime they want for their own hotels, condos. It will be another Florida.
I propose a surf-in, 1,000 surfers
I like your idea.
paddle across the channel. Surf on Boca Chica Beach.
I second that.
I think we could.
Yeah. I think that's going to happen naturally on
Yeah.
Easter weekend. There's going to be a huge crowd over there. What I've asked around for some people to do a drone flyover on Easter weekend there, just to, do a video of all the people using the beach there. I think that would be real important to have to show to, send to Ken Host's office and to Representative Lopez's office.
I like his idea of the surfer demonstration.
I do too.
But now you brought up something else. If you could get a task force, whether it's Surf Rider or whatever other group, to go and inform all those people who are on the beach, how that beach is going to be taken away from them and how they can counteract it.
And we did that here whenever we had the beach battle back in 2006, where we went up and down the beach talking to people about it. Neil and I almost got beat up a couple of times. Walking up to certain people who were, for letting the developer close the beach. And Neil comes over to me. I'm down the beach trying to get people's name on the signature, on a petition. He comes over and goes, man, I just had a really intense conversation. This guy wanted to kick my butt. And I went, which guy? I said, well, we're going to walk right back past him. And if he tries that again, we're going to kick his butt, And so we got into that. So, it was pretty intense back then. You guys remember that battle. So
let's do it again.
I'm good with that. So let's I'll let you organize the committee for it, too. Okay, just a 3-person committee. I see 3 people sitting right there.
We old guys getting in a fight.
I don't know what I'm tearing up here. You got me all excited here, James.
I went ahead and sent, when you guys sent that email, I went ahead and sent an email to both of them, but I also got on their Facebook. And
Good.
something in there, and they had pictures of a group from the coastal bend that went and took pictures with them on the steps. And I said, are these, because it said so-and-so and members of the coastal bend, and I put on there, are they aware of what you're intending to do, you know, da.
Cliff, there's one positive about it, and that is just like when we had our battle with the city, we woke a lot of people up.
Yeah.
They didn't know what was going on, and when we told them what was fixing to happen, there's, you know, well, we won the vote.
Yeah.
Overwhelmingly. And, you know, it's like, if we can get all of the Texas coast, and then other people who, you know, their friends and stuff who come down and use the beach, if we can get beach access to be a bigger deal across more counties, then we can, you know, when this stuff comes up, we'll have greater strength to fight it. And one of the problems that we have, like with the windstorm deal, is you've got the whole state that doesn't care about the coast. It's hard to win a battle when you have few votes, but you communicate that, you know, to the rest of the state, get them involved, and, you know, it's like more people, and he's talking about the number of followers that he has. Now you start having some real leverage, you know, when a representative in Dallas starts getting questioned about these kinds of things, you know, then it starts to matter.
You nailed it. I do that all the time because I've got subscribers from all over the world. And even if, I tell them, even if you don't live here in Corpus, but you ever plan to visit or have visited, your vote is equally as important. I said, you need to email, you need to go over there and speak. And a lot of those guys that chime in, like I said, during the city council meeting, they're not even from Corpus. Some of them are not even from Texas, but they're still putting it in there just so their name gets called. And I was like, and that's important because it lets them know. But I do a mass email, like we've gotten all the emails for everybody with this bill, and we put it all into a big old deal. We kind of put in there what they kind of need to address and stuff like that. And they've been submitting emails all week. So you nailed it right there. It is important for everybody that's not just in this area to speak up because, like you said, those senators that are going to vote for it are not from here. They could care less. But if their constituents are coming down here and, hey, man, we need you to fight for us, it could change things. Very important.
One of the ways that we did that back in 2006 was when we would walk up and down the beach and we would see people, you know, parked on the beach. We'd walk up to them and say, hey, you like parking here? And they go, well, yeah, why? So, well, you may not be able to if you're short. And regardless of where they were from, they would go, well, that's a bunch of bull.
Mm-hmm.
So there's ways to do that. Go ahead.
I was going through a closet the other day and I found an enormous banner that said, don't let them steal our beach.
That's right.
There you go.
If anybody needs it, just
We
call.
might need it. We might need it.
I still have one of the posters up in my office. Reminds me every time I look up of what's important. Okay. So we're not letting them steal our beach, that's for certain. So let me go on here so that we can get through this. House Bill 802 by Representative Wilson. This was up in Galveston. And this was to allow every city along the coast has to file a beach access and use plan. We have one here in Nueces County. The one in Galveston has been out of compliance with their plan for 6 or 8 years. They're the only city on the whole Texas coast that's been out of compliance with their beach use and access plan. And so this representative is from up in their area, filed a bill that would allow them to be out of compliance with their bill. The General Land Office mandates that you have to be in compliance with all portions of that, of your plan. Well, for all these years, they've been out, the General Land Office has been after them. The main part they were out on was on beach access part, and it had to do with signage that showed where the access points were in Galveston. They have way more access points than any other place along the coast. And they weren't able to keep signage showing where these were. So the General Land Office said you have to do that part of it, you have to be in compliance. Well, they had trouble doing that. So they were out of compliance. Well, then they started having some other issues, like beach erosion and stuff like that as part of the plan. They couldn't go and address those part of the plan because the mandate says that you have to fix that first before you're gonna move on to something else. Well, they wanted to be able to change that. We fought that. We don't want that here because that removes all the incentive for them to fix anything, okay? They could say, well, we couldn't do that. Now we got a problem with beach access over here or some other part of the plan. And we can't do that one either. So let's just skip those two and move on to something else. So no, that doesn't work, okay? So we were fighting them on that. Representative Hunter and I had a phone conversation about 10 days back, and I told him, I says, we're gonna fight this to the bitter end, because we don't want that coming down here. We don't want it here in Nueces County. We don't want it anywhere else. And so he says, well, he says, I'm very much opposed to it. This is the same bill we had in the session, the last session before this one. He says, I'll go talk to the representative. So he went and talked to the representative and told him that Surf Rider was going to fight it to the bitter end and that he also was not in favor of this bill. And she decided to drop it. So we won one, okay?
I think, really amazing, but Don Buckingham, the TGLO commissioner, addressed that council in Galveston.
Is that right?
And so you're not getting any funding. You're not obeying the OBA. You're not obeying your beach plan, any of that stuff. And you don't get any funding for renourishment, whatever else they got in her purse. You don't get it.
Right.
So that helped. But what you're talking about is
That drives the issue home real quick.
Yeah.
So anyway, this was a battle that we won through the Surf Rider and through Representative Hunter
great.
with his
Good
help. Okay, so. All right, gonna move on away from those. If you guys have any other questions about those bills, let me get through the rest of it and then I'll take the rest of the question. Mount Darren. You guys know what Mount Darren is? If you've been to North Packery, that big pile of sand over there. So, Mount Darren. Darren is the, beach superintendent for the city. I know him, he's a great guy. It's not his fault that there's a giant pile of sand there, but there's excess sand on North Packery, and there's not enough sand South Packery, okay, in front of the seawall. And so they moved, let me get this straight, because I had to call him to get this, 21,000 tons of sand out of that pile, and there's still quite a bit of it there. And I asked him about that. I said, where did you put 21,000 tons of sand? And he said, in front of the seawall. And I said, and it's gone already. So that's the problem with putting sand in front of the seawall. We all know that it doesn't stay there very long. But the idea is to move sand from the North Packery over in front of the seawall and try to keep it at 150 foot wide so that both vehicles and pedestrians can use it. It's a beach access issue also. If the beach in front of the seawall, and we're only talking in front of the seawall only, the city ordinance says that that beach has to be 150 feet wide from the base of the seawall out. If it's less than 150 feet wide, they go in there and put bollards, and then you can't drive any further. You can't use that section of beach in front of the seawall once it's less, as far as driving your car. You can, pedestrians can use it. So here, before they started putting that sand over there, most of that beach was closed to vehicles. And we've always advocated for beach access, whether it's pedestrian or vehicular. We all know Texans like to drive. We like to drive on our beaches. And so that section there, it's been a hot topic of discussion for many years about being able to drive in front of that part. Pat Suter's name was brought up here earlier, and she really fought hard, okay, for beach access in front of that seawall. Hal Suter also. So we have always fought to keep that part of the beach open to both, and going to continue to do that as long as we can. We've had to make some compromises, and that 150 foot city ordinance was one of them. We felt like that it was a safety issue. We recognize there's a safety issue whenever there's cars there, and there's people also when the beach gets real narrow. So we felt like that was a fair compromise, and that was worked out. Myself, Neil, a number of others sat in on a committee out there with a lot of people that lived on the island who were concerned. And we were able to work that out. And so things can be worked out if you're willing to sit down and do it. So anyway, Darren told me that pile of sand over there, Mount Darren, will continue to be there for as long as there's more sand on the north side that needs to be moved over. And they're gonna try to maintain the 150-foot with that pile of sand. So from time to time, guys, you'll be dodging big dump trucks. So be careful. They have the right way whether they do it or not. Okay, so, okay, one last thing. Make promises happen, sir, Kim. Talked about this earlier. It's coming up July the 19th, be our 26th year. Going to be in Port Aransas at the same place that it's been now for a number of years, at the end of Avenue G where it meets the beach. We were very happy to have Nueces County as one of our sponsors. That helped us out a lot. It's the first money sponsor we've ever had. All these years, it's been coming straight out of the local chapter's funds. And this year, we got a little break on that, thank goodness. Just so you know, they sponsored us to $1,000, and that helped us out considerably. It's not an expensive thing to put on because of all of you guys, because you all volunteered to help. And we're going to need volunteers again, and we're going to be putting out a lot more information as it gets closer. And so, oh yeah, there was one more thing. Steve Hamilton and I had a meeting with the stormwater officials here in Corpus. If you remember right, our last meeting, we had them here doing a big presentation. And he and I went down to one of the parks on Ocean Drive, Swantner Park. And Steve was pointing out to them some of the storm drains, they don't have any type of grate on them. And so all the styrofoam cups, the bottles, all the plastic stuff that Neil was talking about earlier, all washes down those. Then Steve asked me, how many of these drains are connected to this big outflow? And just in that general area and part of that neighborhood, there was 21 of them. And so we went and looked at the outflow. And the outflows are beginning to deteriorate pretty badly. But the thing that Steve was, wanting to impress on these folks is if you put a grate right where that water goes off of the street into the storm drain and catches all of the debris there, that way it doesn't go into the bay, and it's a lot cheaper. So during the discussion, it was discussed, well, what do we make these grates out of? Do we make them out of rebar? No, that ain't gonna last very long. They'll rust away real quick. Do we make them out of stainless steel so they last? No, you can't do that because people steal them. So Steve sent me today something that he done. He went and he made a grate out of fiberglass. He told me it cost him $30. He sent me pictures of it. The thing's beautiful. I couldn't even believe he made that thing. I went, wow. Then he showed me pictures of it. He went over there to Swanner and he put the thing on the grate. I mean, wow. Okay. $30. We were talking the last meeting, some of these devices that the city's installed that are costing us $720,000 for one. Another one cost $1.1 million. And that's just two devices. $30 a shot. And city a lot of rates and save, keep a lot of trash out of it.
That's if they keep it at cost and not sitting there and say, oh, it costs us $30,000 for this $30 piece.
I was talking about that when I was telling her about it this afternoon, and it was $30, and she said, yeah, it'll be about 20 or 30 times that if, the city makes it, or the county, or the state, or anybody else. So, yeah, that's the thing.
It doesn't matter if they're free. The drawback is they're gonna clog up and impede flow, and you have no drainage whatsoever.
They have to be maintained.
And somebody goes and cleans them out hourly or whatever the rate of accumulation of the junk is. Well, we've tried all of that, and without maintenance, dependable, regular maintenance,
It floods the neighborhoods. It floods the neighborhoods.
it will back flood quickly. But it's a great idea, price wise.
Well, the city, when we were talking to them out there, they said that they had the personnel to do it. So,
Not with that many storm drains around the city.
Street sweeping is what they're talking about.
and then he told me they were getting 5 new street sweepers too. So, I don't know how much that helps. But
You have to have about 80 vacuum trucks driving around just sucking that stuff up.
one of the comments that Steve made was before he put that grade on there, he said he dug out tons of
Batteries, all
stuff that had already gone you know. So, okay, guys, that's it for my report. We are not going to let them steal our beach. And I can promise you that. Okay. You had a question earlier that I didn't quite catch on.
The bill to dissolve the Texas Parks and Wildlife into the GLO.
I've heard that's been dropped.
Yeah, they can say that, but like, how do we know for sure that it's?
I'll show you how you can know for sure. Right here. Right. Thank you for the segue. All right, so you can watch from your safety of your home, you can watch what's going on at the Capitol during the legislative session, right? So that website up top there, it gets to this page right here, and then you click on this, which says legislation, and you can do a search for bills, right? So you can go to Texas search, and I've got Beach Access here, but you can type in Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, whatever, and every bill that has that language in there is listed, right? So you can do this with plastics, you can do it with beach access, you can do it with anything.
Can you point that out again? Because I was scrolling over right when you moved your hand down.
So you got this website, capital.state.texas.us.
Yeah.
It's an official state website, right, for the legislature. Not only, you can also read about the members. You can read about your representatives and senators, and where their offices are, what their phone numbers are, what their email addresses, all that stuff. You can find that here. But the thing that's cool is the bill lookup. You do a text search and you type in whatever words you're interested in, and then it will list all those bills with that highlighted, with that phrase, whatever you're typing in there.
But that was under the legislation tab over there on the left side, right?
Yeah, like legislation here, and then it comes up with bill lookup, and it's pretty easy.
The thing you have to look out for with the bills, whenever someone says they not gonna push it, they dropped pushing it, you still have to watch at the very end of the session.
Yeah.
This one here about Galveston, the session not the session, but the one before, she tried to sneak it on as a rag or onto a bill that had absolutely nothing to do with beaches or anything that you would never suspect that this bill would have been part of. She tried to sneak it on there on the last day, okay?
And you can also substitute bills.
Yes.
As well.
So I quizzed Representative Hunter about how this works, about how bills can be changed, there can be amendments to them, there's all kinds of things that can be done. He told me that's one of the things that he has some of his staff keeping an eye on, is amendments to bills at the last minute. So, okay, guys.
All right, 3 more slides, real quick, Ben. So we still need some volunteers here. We've actually got a really great team in our executive committee, but we still need some people to help out. So Blue Water Task Force samplers, where you actually go sample on every Thursday morning, bring the samples to Merriam. We're looking for lots more samplers to do that. Ocean Friendly Restaurants Program, it's a national program we have that encourages restaurants to ditch plastic and become sustainable. That's a big job for somebody who's used to the restaurant industry. That's a great thing. And fundraising, all the stuff that we do. I mean, we're not a rich chapter, but we do raise money, and we've had parties, we've had other kinds of fundraising things. We're talking about possibly having another one of our Christmas parties. Anybody who here has ever attended our Christmas parties, like on Bob Hall Pier at the restaurant and stuff, they're pretty fun. So but we need people to help coordinate all that. All right, so here's some things coming up again. This Thursday, I'm headed up to Houston for the Texas Plastic Pollution Symposium. Then we've got Earth Day Bay Day at Heritage Park downtown. We'll be tabling there. End of April, the 26th, we've got the Adopt a Beach cleanup, which is happening all over the place. But we go to the Packery Park headquarters and meet up there, and then go wherever Jim tells us we need to be. Right, Jim? So then at our meeting back here on April 28th, Dr. Dara Orbach, who works here at Texas A&M, she's going to present about her research on bottlenose dolphins. She's a marine mammal specialist, so that's really interesting. And you guys remember the news piece about the dolphins with the fentanyl in it? She might be able to, tell us a little bit more about that. So then on May the 10th, we're going to partner with University of Texas Marine Science Institute in Port Aransas, and we're going to do a cleanup on San Jose Island or St. Joe's Island. We're still working out the details. According to Jace Tunnel, it is really trashed right now. There's tons of plastic bottles all over the beach. And so we've got a 30-yard trash dumpster lined up to be dropped for us. We're going to take the jetty boat across and then bring the trash back. It's going to be a lot of work. We're going to need a lot of volunteers for that. And then just so y'all know, that May 14th and 15th event, Surfrider Foundation nationally, we lobby Congress. So we do it virtually now, but we'll be lobbying our congressmen and our senators' offices on the issues like water quality testing, and other things that Surfrider is concerned about. So just let y'all know that it actually does happen. And I've participated in that several times. And if anybody wants to help with that, you're welcome to. And the last thing, so you can join Surfrider for $5, right? Big fee, right? So Surfrider decided last year that it's better to have more members, not necessarily make money off, right? So if we got more members, we can get a message out to more people. Again, we are a national organization. But I encourage you all to go on the website and you'll see that little, it says donate up at the top corner there. That's really where you go to join. And this is so true. In my 30-something years of volunteering with Surfrider Foundation, it has become abundantly clear to me that the ocean needs more friends. We've got a situation on our hands. We need to fix it. That's it. Anybody got any questions, comments, anything like that?
Definitely get with you so I can get better in contact with y'all. So
Sure.
that way we got to attack it from all angles. And, we got a lot of people willing to help out. So.
Good. Excellent. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. That's
All right, guys, so it's over here, but I'm gonna get with them, get them information. I'll be passing more of that as soon as I get it. I did take a lot of screenshots and pictures of the information they have up there. I'll be posting it to the community page so that way y'all can keep up with it. But again, too, the video's here. If y'all have any questions, y'all have that email here at teamheartlife1@gmail.com. Oh, there we go. So we're getting some cards and information here, and like I said, it was a lot of good info. So I felt a lot better of what's going on. There's a lot more people involved. So we're not alone, guys, but we need more. We need everybody from every part, every state, every city, every country blowing up these emails, letting them know that we are not alone here. All right, guys, y'all have a good one. I'll talk to y'all later. Oh, yeah, yes, sir. Always.
You're still retired.